Hi everyone, hope everyone's well. In this video I'm going to talk about the process, the steps in the takeoff section for the game. And this is where you've got your P47s here, ready to take off, and the process involved is the steps involved between here and getting them onto the board. And this is what we call as the takeoff. And there are several components to this. It's very straightforward. I've got here printouts of the prototypes for all the tables associated with this, and I'm going to talk you through exactly how the mechanics work. So the first thing we're going to do is establish the weather for the takeoff section of the game. The actual weather for the sortie itself can change, but we have to roll for the weather to begin with. The results are either good or bad. Good, no impact. Doesn't impact the takeoff process at all. However, bad weather does. And you can make yourself a couple of counters which will be included on the PDFs for good and bad to associate. Now, let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that it's good weather. I'll use the good weather there just to it's just a visual aid to remind me. Because it does, bad weather in particular, does have a further impact. And the tables themselves do describe that. So 2 to 7 good on 2 dice, 8 to 12 bad weather. Let's assume it's good weather for the sake of this run through, and then we get to the takeoff event table, and there's a chance, a very slim chance, there can be some level of a mishap, whether it's a technical mishap or a pilot mishap or just some random event that throws the pilot off a little bit in the takeoff process. 2 to 10 again on the 2 dice, takeoff success, no problem at all. 11 and 12, it does have some impact. So what you would be doing is rolling on this table for each plane in turn. So let's say, for the sake of argument, planes 1 and 2, takeoff success, no problem. Plane number 3, however, has a lucky near miss, and we get an 11 on the dice. Lucky near miss, this is where the pilot's just been shaken a little bit, maybe a gust of wind or something, some slight mishap, nothing too major, but it's knocked their confidence a little bit, and you would reduce the pilot confidence by 1. You would reduce this on the pilot sheet, and I do have a separate video that explains confidence and shows you how to do that on the actual plane sheets themselves. So plane number 3, a little bit of a shake. Plane number 4, in our imaginary scenario, they roll. For that plane, you roll a double 6. This is incredibly bad. Bad fortune. This plane has suffered a collision, some level of collision. And that can be often with another plane during that takeoff process. And we'll come to the collision later because it can also happen as the planes are forming up. But let's just assume that we've gone through this process for each plane in turn. We know what the results are. Then we will now move to the forming up table. This is where the planes have gone through the taking off process and they're forming up ready to go on the sortie. And let's again assume there's 4 different results. The table explains the results. The bad weather, which is where, remembering the bad weather, which is why we have a counter, that can have an impact on the dice roll. It's a dice roll modifier and adds 1 to the dice roll result. Again, let's just assume that planes 1 and 2 take off success. We can move them onto the board. Sorry, forming up success. So they've taken off, they formed up, mishap or not, and we can now put them onto the board. However, number 11, again, plane number 3 rolls an 11, a lucky near miss. This is a quite unlucky pilot. And again, we would reduce the pilot's confidence by 1. And we would reduce that on the plane sheet as normal, and again that will be our feature. There's a separate video that describes the plane sheets and confidence. And plane number 4, now that had a collision, so one of the results of forming up is also a collision, a catastrophe, and the plane has had some kind of collision. Roll on the P47 collision table. So let's talk about that now. The P47 collision table, we roll on this table to see the result of the forming up table. So we know it's a collision, so we're 2 to 3, so just a lucky near miss. No problem. a miss is as good as an inch is as good as a miss is as good as a mile. So the wings nearly touched. In fact, I have read accounts where P-47 planes actually the wingtips would bump each other, and it had no bad impacts. And that dice roll impacts that. However, if there is damage or severe damage, then the planes have collided in some capacity, and we would roll. We would roll to see which plane is involved between that plane and another plane. Now, because this plane is in the bottom lane, we'll call it, then the collision has occurred with this plane here, this unlucky pilot, double unlucky. And both these two planes here would, depending on the amount of damage, suffer both confidence loss, and we would roll on the P-47 damage table. The damage table I cover when we talk about combat, so please refer to that video. So as you can see, it's just a couple of die rolls, a couple of tables to go through, and you can start to create that sort of narrative in your mind as you imagine these planes thundering down the takeoff strip, taking off, forming up. Like I said, they would often bump each other, not uncommon. And you simply go through those tables associated. As I said, all the tables that I've shown today I've taught through. These are all early prototypes. I'm still tweaking some of the values and so forth as I finish and continue to develop the game and finish up ready for release. So yeah, thanks for watching, and please do check out the other tutorial videos for all the other game mechanics for the game. Thank you.